Here on a Sunday afternoon, and just so you know, the October show will be at the Marriott right here in Mars, PA, not too far away. It's only about a half a mile away. We'll be back here at this hotel next June. Right now, we are so proud to have her, one of our favorites, Veronica Carlson, for John Bishop.
Thank you all very much for welcoming me.
I just want to begin with a confession. Like a lot of people in this room, we've collected a lot of things. So I came to a convention once and I said I'm going to try and restrict, just because I already have so much room at home, I'm going to try to restrict my collecting. So I came, I saw a lot of wonderful things, I tried to restrict my collecting. And then one of the vendors said, I have a copy of The Ghoul. And I already had The Ghoul on VHS, because I can't get it on DVD. And I said, I already have The Ghoul, I'm trying to restrict my collecting. And then he said to me, but this has a few more extra minutes in it. And I said, and what is a few minutes extra of? And he said, it's got 2.5 minutes more of Veronica Carlson. I said, sold. So could you tell us a little bit about making The Ghoul?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Oh, The Ghoul with Peter Cushing?
Yeah, that was a very strange movie for me. Because I'd worked with Peter, Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed, and he was a joy, and a wonderful man to be with. And The Ghoul, this is after his wife had passed away, and I was working with a broken-hearted man, and he had to have a picture. He had a picture of his wife, Ellen, on a set wherever he was. I'd get there early to see where he'd hidden it, and I was always the first to find it. But anyway, he had a scene in The Ghoul where he had to talk about his wife, and there was Helen's picture, his wife, and he looked at this picture and had to bemoan the loss of his wife, her death, and of course she had died not long beforehand. And I remember Freddie asked him to redo the take, and he did that take 6 times, and in the end Peter was just so distraught, tears were falling off his face. I hate to remember it. And he said, I can't do this anymore, Freddie. I'm going to my dressing room. Now, I was amazed that Freddie put him through it, but Freddie was a very kind, very generous, patient director. And I knew that he did it because he saw he was getting so much from Peter, so very much. But the result was, the crew, I turned around, I was crying. The crew, grown men, were weeping. They put the lights out and all walked off the set. Peter was a most loved actor. There wasn't anyone who didn't love Peter. And I remember he told me, he held my hand and he said, darling, you've no idea how many times I ran up and down stairs trying to give myself a heart attack. To go so he could be with Helen. It was, he loved her so much. And after that, everybody in show business, he was loved. They gave him work after work after work after work. He was never out of work. He was never allowed to rest. He had to keep working. Everything. Everyone rallied around Peter. And he said to me, when you come to England, darling, come and have dinner with me. He and his secretary, Joyce Broughton. But I never could make it. We had problems in America. My husband wasn't too well. And I could never stay long enough to make that trip. And it's something I bitterly regret. But I consider myself a most fortunate person to have known him on 2 levels. And for him to confide in me, to know me well enough that he could trust me to confide in me. Still, I think I'm going on too much.
Now, could you tell us a little bit about when you first met Peter Cushing? Could you tell us a little bit about what it was like when you first met Peter Cushing?
Yeah, when I first got the role of Dracula, I was risen from the grave, the Maria, Peter came to the studio because they were presenting the Queen's Award of Industry to Hammer, and I was lucky enough to be there. And I mean, here's the Johnny-come-lately, never had anything to do with Hammer before. I was in costume, of course, as Maria, and Barbara was in costume as the barmaid. And there was Christopher, and there was Peter, and us two ladies, who had nothing to do with anything at that time, being presented with the Queen's Award to Industry to the Lord Lieutenant of Buckinghamshire and his wife. And what amazed me about these two gentlemen, I think you always have a preconceived idea in your head about people. You know, you see this tall, elegant man, and you know he's an aristocrat of some kind, and he's going to be unapproachable. Peter, and they were so approachable, it was amazing. It's like we'd known them all our lives. And great sense of humor, and we were immediate friends, and I enjoyed working with them so very, very much. So that was our introduction, and then of course we had the reading around the table of the script, just to time it out and everything. And God, I can't remember how happy I was meeting people that I'd seen on TV, film, and been a fan of as growing up, and then, you know, from school through college. And that's, here I am on screen with them. It was, oh blimey, this is wonderful. I'm here, I made it. Below the bachelor's degree I just got in college. But oh my God. Or I remember my father saying to me, don't do anything to embarrass me, darling. He wasn't very impressed with me going into the film business. But I hope I didn't do anything to embarrass him. Anyway, did so long ago.
All right, I'm going to see if does anyone have any questions. Just raise your hand. Right over here.
Veronica, will you talk about how you got your start? What inspired you to become an actress?
How did you get your start, and what inspired you to become an actress?
When I was in college, well, I was always pretending. I was always playing games of let's pretend. You know how kids do. And when I went to college, we had a music director called Peter Goodwin. I used to sing in a choir, I was soprano. And I thought, I want to be with this man. He's absolutely ingenious. But when I went to college, he was the music director in college. And of course, I joined the music side of things straight away. We did stage productions, musical ones. We did The Conspirators by Schubert. I was one of the conspirators. And we sang Travaggiuri. I was one of the three maids. And we did reviews. And this was in our spare time. We did our lunch breaks between evening, you know, from afternoon classes into evening classes, we'd do it. It was a constant joy. I mean, Peter Goodwin said to me years later, those were the happiest 4 years of his teaching career. There was a group of us in college that sort of got together and meshed, a bit like Caroline and Martine and I, you know, we just meshed, all of us, and it was there were no drugs. If we could afford a lager at the end of a week, we did. We rarely could do that. And we just met up to chat. And that's how it was. And the end, my fourth year, he wanted me for the lead in La Vie Parisienne. So the principal came down from the high school, Lofty Heights, and said, if she fails this exam, it's on your head, Peter Goodwin. So I couldn't do it. And I was very upset about that. But I understood why. You know, you can't cheat an art exam. I mean, you're there doing it on the easel, you can't cheat. But no, but I got through my college years very well. And they were very happy years. But during that year, I remember going to the theatre to see a Hammer movie, and I skived off a class. And I thought it was only me that did it with a friend. And I thought, we both said, they'll never notice us, go away. But what we didn't know, other people said exactly the same thing. And when Mr. Shepperson got to the class, there was nobody there. So he thought he knew where we'd gone. And when you know when the lights come up, and you know how everyone looks around to see who else. There he was. This man was 6'4", very well built. And we all looked at him, and he said, I want each one of you back in class as soon as this film is over. He let us see the film, and And he said, and when we got back to class, he said, don't forget, I've passed my exams, you haven't passed yours yet. But we never skived off again, but it was a Hammer movie. And we were all fans of Hammer, and I used to think, I'll be up there one day, I will be up there one day. I didn't know how, I just knew it would happen.
Kind of a two-part question. House of the Gorgon, was it as much fun to make as it looked like it was? And is there going to be a sequel?
House of the Gorgon, was it as much fun as it looked like it was? And then the second part is there going to be a sequel?
Oh my God, the House of the Gorgon. Boy, oh boy, that was fun. Well, Josh is a dynamo, for a start, and of course I'm working with Martine. I've never worked with Martine and Caroline before. They're just very good friends. And the first time I met Christopher Neame was then over there. It was like Hammer days again. We all got on, no trades unions to bother us and say, time to stop filming now. And I'm not moving that plant because it's in a pot, that's the gardener's job, and you know, that type of thing, because that was wrecking the film industry in Britain. And Josh was so creative. I have to tell you one very lovely story about Josh. He had a wind scene with the leaves. I don't know if you remember it. The leaves were scattering. And ages afterwards, when they sort of cleared it up, I saw Josh on his hands and knees, and other people on their hands and knees, looking for leaves. I thought, we can get leaves, they're outside, we can go pick some more. These were 4 very special leaves. And I asked him, he found the 4th one, and it must have taken 15 minutes, so he got blown under something. And I asked him, and he put them in a little velvet-lined box. And he collected them from Black Park, where we did so many, you know, pieces from Hammer films. We were always doing something in Black Park. And he'd visited as a child at the age of 8. And he'd picked up 4 leaves from Black Park as a souvenir. And he put them in this little velvet-lined box, and the world was on its axis again. That's how he is. He's so... And he asked me to put the bust of... my lovely Michael Ripper on the bar. He said, Veronica, you've got to do that. You've got to be the one to put it on the bar. And so little things like that all the way through. Josh's mother would come with lunch every day, the best meals. Oh my goodness, salads, just beautiful, lovely lady. And she'd bring us lunch, and everyone was so glad to see her. Oh my goodness. And sangria on occasion. The first day was sangria, and the last, but not the meantime. And Josh's father partook. It was a family affair. And we had, obviously, we spent every day being happy. How can you beat that? And I swear the sun is bigger in Texas, because as we came out of the building, the sun just filled the sky as it was setting. It was a remarkable time. Very happy time. Another Hammer time, really.
So, do you think there's going to be a sequel?
I'm sorry?
Is there going to be a sequel? You know? A sequel?
Say that again.
A sequel to a House of
No! Oh, he's talking about Whitby. Oh, he won't tell anything about it. He just looked at me. I said, why do you want to go to Whitby for? It's a horrible place as far as I'm concerned. I know that's where Dracula arrived, but it really is a horrible place. It's right on the sea. Of course, it's a harbour. And the Siberian winds rush down, and the water is icy cold and rough, North Sea. And I remember when I went there years ago, my husband and I, we thought, oh, we're going to be good for seafood. For sure, it's going to be great for seafood. So we bought a couple of crab cakes. You know, we couldn't eat them. They were like hockey pucks. we couldn't got that. We just couldn't. We just threw them into the harbour. It's an historic place. My father sent my kids postcards from Whitby, and they were all the most boring views of Whitby. There isn't a happy view of Whitby, I promise you. There's a ruined abbey, there's these huge whale's teeth, and for some unknown reason, the postcard was, you know, set back in the 1900s when they first got photographs working as it, with a washing line of old trousers, you know, so horrible baggy pants, and that was the 3rd most boring picture. No, it was fun. He made fun of it. But no, they had friends there, so they knew Whitby very well. They had one of those homes, shops on the quayside, and they lived above it, and it's a very old place. Anyway, that's what he said, so I don't know.
Okay.
That's all I know.
Any other questions? Yes.
Do you have any memories of Terence Fisher?
Yes. Oh, poor Terry, always with a cane. He was always walking into traffic. Nobody understood why. He was always getting done in, you know. He was a great contrast to Freddie Francis. And I think that was a good time for me because he thought I knew what I was doing, which was very encouraging, you know, for a start. And I remember the first day of filming, we were sitting on the stairs, Peter and I, and we were doing my death scene. This is the first day of shooting. So, as if I'm not sitting there, Terry comes up to both of us and looks at Peter and said, "So how would you like to kill her, Peter?" And Peter said, "I've been giving that a lot of thought, dear." So I waited with bated breath to see, and he said yes. And he said, and so Peter went through the motions. He said, "I thought if I had a scalpel and embraced her onto the scalpel, and it would go into her. Oh, what a wonderful idea! Excellent idea. Yes, I think that's a good idea. Well, put a wooden block." Nobody asked me. It was like I wasn't there. And I tried to speak, anyway, it was all done. It was all settled without me being there. Well, you know, I was there, but not according to them. So I had a wooden block attached underneath my blouse, and so it protected me, obviously. And we did the death scene that first day, and I died, I think. But I said, "Please, may I die with my eyes open?" "Certainly not, darling, it would never get past the censors," he said. Can you imagine? That's how it was. I wanted to die with my eyes open. I thought it would be to great effect. Anyway.
Next question.
Yes. Can you give us your thoughts and memories on working with Christopher Lee?
Your thoughts and memories on working with Christopher Lee?
Oh, yeah. Christopher had a great sense of humour. He'd go out and whack a few golf balls every now and then into Black Park, or wherever he was. And I remember I asked him one day how heavy his cloak was. He didn't say a word. He took it off and put it around my shoulders, and my legs nearly gave way. It weighed about 25 pounds. It was incredibly heavy. Thank goodness the stuntman and his double wore very, very light, because when he carried me up that mountain, I thought, I know I'm going to fall off. I know my head's going to... And it was high. It really was high. But he never complained about those awful contacts. And I remember very clearly how generous an actor he was. When I had to be approached by him in the cellar, when I'd been thrown down by Barbara Ewing onto the cellar floor, and I had to gaze up at him, Freddie had said, "This is your eye line, darling," and he put his hand up behind the camera. I could just see it off camera. And I heard this voice, that lovely voice of Chris's, "I'll be her eye line, Freddie." And I was so grateful to him. You know, acting to a hand is one thing, but acting to a man who's actually acting as if he were on camera with you was a remarkable gift to me. I've never forgotten it. And I've never stopped thanking him for it. And I was later to learn, much later to learn, that in fact Gregory Peck had done the same thing for him when he was a younger actor, and he'd never ever forgotten that. And it stayed with me. But he was a generous, thoughtful, kind man. And when I asked him to sit for me for that sketch, I wanted to give him a sketch. It took 35 minutes, and I presented it to him. To think that he sat for me, I would never think of daring to ask. I don't know how I got the gall to do it, but that's how approachable he was. And he met my parents, and they thought the world of him. Everyone did. And I remember the scenes. We took Hammer very seriously. There was no joking around. When we took the scenes seriously, no laughter, and we all enjoyed it. We loved the spirit of that company and those films. And Christopher used to say, "You can be safely horrified." This is where you could sit and be safely horrified. And that's, I think, was a beautiful phrase to use for Hammer.
He liked the reference to the attorney firm of Cushing, Price, and Lee in the House of the Gorgon.
Oh yeah, that was clever, wasn't it? He didn't miss anything, did he? I know.
And I wanted to ask, in addition to Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, other stars, did you keep in touch through the years?
Yeah, I did with Peter, and I did with Gita. When Chris, they were, I mean, they're out there being so busy and famous, and I was busy at home raising children and being busy myself with my artwork. I had commissions to do. But Peter I kept in touch with, and Joyce Broughton, his secretary, and when Christoph passed away, I wrote to Gita. She wrote me a wonderful letter in return, thanking me. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect her to. And when Peter passed away, I was able to do a portrait of him that could be auctioned to help with the window. They wanted to put a window in the church for him. And it helped raise money. So I can use my work to benefit certain, charities, like pancreatic cancer. I won one for Ralph Bates. Wayne Kinsey bought that one. The money goes to the charity. And of course, Virginia Weatherall was there, so it was, can put my work to good use sometimes, multiple sclerosis, things like that. No, I never got to see them again.
Okay, and last question.
Memories of working with the great Michael Ripper, who appeared in more Hammer films than any other actor.
Memories of working with Michael Ripper.
Oh yeah, Michael was wonderful. Well, he was in every Hammer movie, wasn't he? And Christopher would say, "Oh my goodness, we're starring in another Michael Ripper movie." I loved him. Yeah, he was adored by everybody. He was a sparkling human being. He fairly sparkled like his little spectacles he would wear. And I'd go and watch him do the bar scenes with Barry Andrews. And we'd all be around just gazing at him. And he was rubbing the glass, cleaning the glasses. And he was so approachable. And at one of the conventions I went to, much later years, I did a portrait of him, but anyway, that's another story. He was becoming very forgetful. I don't know if he had senile dementia or if it was he didn't remember. And he was standing on stage and he was having all this applause and he was just gazing as like, why am I here? This is amazing. Is this for me? And there wasn't a dry eye, because you could see by his expression that he really didn't understand, but he did have a faraway memory that was coming back and knocking at the door. Do you know what I mean? And that was the last time I saw him. I've been so lucky to work with these people. Yeah, he was adorable.
Well, can we please hear a good applause, wonderful applause, a monster mass applause for Veronica.
And we have a couple surprises for you, Veronica. The first one from Ursula here. Some flowers for Veronica. And if David Coleman wants to come up, we have an additional surprise. We have an additional surprise for you here. David Coleman is coming up from the Rondo Awards.
Veronica, that was wonderful, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we all love each other, but hearing stories like this, it just makes us feel that we were there, and it's so rewarding for us. A lot of folks come and sign autographs and things like that, but only a few special people embrace the entire experience, and we feel like you're one of us in a way. So earlier this weekend, we gave Martine one of these, and we gave, I said Carolyn, but it's Caroline. Okay, and we'd like to present you with a Rondo Award Monster Kid Hall of Fame presented to Veronica Carlson.
I didn't expect this. Please forgive me, this is amazing. Thank you so much. I feel like we're family. I've always felt that. I've known so many of you for so very many years over the years. And you've no idea how much it means to me to be in this life we have, the memories we share. Thank you all so very much for making me part of your family. I can't keep talking.
Veronica Carlson.